Hello, guys. My name is Liz Morales, and today I'm going to be presenting about, well, not presenting, but discussing about the causes of the American Revolution, as well as my anti-reconciliation stance in this. Okay, so there were many things that led to the American Revolution, right? And the end of the solitary neglect was one of them. But the reason why it became a reason for the colonies to declare independence was because the salutary neglect refers to the English policy of interfering very little in colonial affairs, right? So up to that time, colonists had a source of independence, right? And then when England tried to end this salutary neglect by imposing the Navigation Acts, the colonists started getting mad because they weren't used to that. They were used to minding their own business, and England minding their own business as well. So that's why it became one of the major causes for, well, not major, but one of the first causes that led to the American Revolution. And the next one would be the Seven Years' War, right? And what we know about this one is that it is also known as the French and Indian War. It has many names, right? But it is commonly known as the French and Indian War, and it became an issue with the colonists after the war because after it ended, England thought that the colonists should help pay for the debt, right? So this is what the colonists didn't like. They didn't like that they had to also pay for the debt, right? Um, and that's how when they started raising all the taxes and all that, and that's why they were getting mad, the colonists, and that's why it became a major issue. Not only that, but also the Proclamation of 1763 became a cause, right? And in particular, the proclamation limited settlement in the colonies to the eastern side of a line drawn along the Appalachian Mountain chain. The reaction in the colonies were largely one of resentment that England would try to place limits and controls in the colonies' matter. So that's why it's just like the end of the salutary neglect. The colonists didn't like that the English were becoming involved with their own affairs, right? Okay, and the next one would be the Parliamentary Revenue Acts, and the acts appear to be in the tradition of Navigations Acts meant to regulate trade, but Granville Act action intent was to raise revenue, right? Um, the colonists didn't like the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Intolerable Acts, right? And the reason for that because they knew that England wasn't trying to regulate trade. They knew that they were trying to raise revenue, and how were they raising revenue without being represented? So that's why it became a major issue with these parliamentary revenue acts. Not only that, but also the Boston Massacre became a major issue. The reason for that was because the Boston Massacre was the killing of five colonists by British regulars on March 5th, 1770. It was a combination of tensions in the American colonies that had been growing since royal troops first appeared in Massachusetts in October 1768 to enforce the heavy tax burden imposed by the townshend fees, right? So tension was already building in Massachusetts, right? And when uh, when the soldiers they fired at the colonists realized that wow, you have arms, you have all these guns, and we don't. So that's why they didn't like it, and it became like a major issue. And here I have a basic picture of, I don't know if you guys have seen it, right, but it's the Boston Massacre, and it is described in here. Like, as you can see the colonists like the victims, and then the soldiers with all those things, and it shows even the people that were killed, right? So they were innocent to them. Um, not only that, not only Boston Massacre became a major issue for independence, there were many things, and the next one would be the Tea Act and the Boston Tea Party. Okay, so the Tea Act was when England tried to tax on the tea, right? And this, of course, angered many, many, many colonists, including women. And because of that, on the Boston Tea Party occurred. And this event was when 100 to 150 men disguised as Indians boarded the ships and dumped thousands of pounds of tea into the harbor while a crowd of 2,000 watched. So they were defying the law. They actually just went there and just threw the tea, right? And it was a sign of rebellion that they were rebelling against the authority. And this, of course, the such act, it led to the Course of Acts, and basically the Course of Acts were four laws meant to punish Massachusetts for destroying the tea. In America, those laws, along with the fifth one, the Quebec Act, were soon known as the Intolerable Acts. So that's why, because they did that, they were taxed once again with the coercive, well, not taxed, right? But they were laws meant to punish them, and they were punished. And this is what angered colonists even more, right? And finally, not finally, right? But one of the main ones was the battles of Lexington and Concord. So this was fought on April 19, 1775, right? And kicked off the American Revolutionary War. So basically, the battles of Lexington and Concord started the Revolutionary War, or the American Revolution. Tensions had already been building for many years between residents of the 13 colonies and the British authorities, particularly in Massachusetts. So when this happened, war was declared on both sides. And yes, although they were going through the war, they also the first continental or the second continental Congress, they also saw like the two sides, like let's do this or let's do that, so that it didn't work. So one of their options was to reconciliate with England, and they actually tried to reconciliate. So in this, the Olive Branch petition is not only going to explain one of the major causes for the American Revolution, but it's also going to explain and prove my point that there was not a chance for reconciliation with England. So the Olive Branch petition was because it actually happened in July 1775 when congressional moderates led by John Dickinson engineered an appeal to the king called the Olive Branch petition. The petition affirmed loyalty to the monarchy and blamed all the troubles on the king's minister and on Parliament. It proposed that the American colonial assemblies be recognized as one individual parliaments under the umbrella of the monarchy. By late fall 1775, however, reconciliation was out of the question. King George III rejected the Olive Branch petition and heatedly condemned the Americans as traitors. Therefore, thereafter, it was hard to blame only ministers and not the king himself for the conflict. So yes, you could have said that. No, maybe they did try to apologize and try to make things up with England. And they did try, but the king refused. He rejected, and that's why they went into war. That's how like war was declared. Like, you know what? There's no going back. So that's how there wasn't a chance for them to reconciliate because they tried, right? But they didn't eventually. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my discussion.